The evening my husband gestured toward the front door and gave me a choice. He believed he was putting me in my place. He never imagined I would walk through it. My name is Sarah. I was 35 years old. I had a 4-year-old daughter named Lily. And I had spent 7 years slowly erasing myself inside a marriage. Not because my husband was cruel by nature, but because he lacked the courage to stand between me and those who were. James was dependable, responsible, a devoted father. But the moment his family arrived, something in him shifted. He stopped being my partner. He became their child again, their protector, their loyal son. And I became the stranger at my own dinner table. Every time, without exception. His mother had a view on everything I did. The food I made, the clothes I chose, how I raised Lily, how I existed, essentially. Early on, I told myself she meant well. Then I told myself to be patient. Then I spent years swallowing the hurt. Because whenever I brought it to James, he offered the same response. She doesn't mean anything by it. That's just her way. 7 years. That same sentence. 7 years of being told my pain was the misunderstanding. The day everything broke open was a Sunday in late summer. A garden party at his parents' house. Extended family everywhere. Children in the grass, music low in the background. The easy laughter of people who have never had to hide how they feel. Lily was beside me, picking at a bowl of fruit. When his mother appeared at my shoulder, she looked at the bowl. Her expression shifted. Still doing this with her diet? I kept my voice level. Her doctor had suggested it. She made a sound, dismissive, theatrical. I've raised 3 children and none of them needed this sort of managing. Heads turned. I felt the heat rise in my face. I'm doing what her doctor recommended, I said. Then James's sister, Claire, stepped in with a smile that held no warmth. Oh, here we go. Sarah's read something online and now she knows best. Laughter rippled around the table. I held my expression steady. But something I had been holding down for a very long time had reached its limit. Because Lily was right there. 4 years old. Watching. Absorbing. Learning, in real time, what her mother was worth to these people. Following a doctor's guidance isn't something to ridicule, I said. The table stilled. Claire's smile tightened. His mother straightened. And there it is. There what is? The attitude. The disrespect. That word. Disrespect. For refusing to be quiet. I looked across the table at James. I gave him every opportunity. A single sentence was all it would have taken. Let's leave this. She has a point. He looked at the table. And in that silence, I finally understood what 7 years had actually been. I did not raise my voice. I simply stopped pretending. I told them, calmly and clearly, what the years had felt like from where I stood. The weight of constant criticism. The loneliness of never being defended. The exhaustion of performing gratitude for my own mistreatment. The reaction was total. Every person present turned against me. Including James. He rose from his chair. Something in his face had hardened. Apologize. Right now. Or leave. The garden went completely silent. Every face expected me to fold. To say sorry. To smooth it over. The way I always had. Instead, I stood up, walked inside, gathered Lily's things, and left without a word. No performance. No final statement. Just the quiet act of leaving. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table alone. And something settled in me. Not rage. Something colder and more certain than that. I was not going to raise my daughter inside this pattern. I was not going to let her watch me diminish myself, so that other people could remain comfortable. For years before, a colleague named Anna, now living abroad, had mentioned an opening at her firm. At the time, my life was here. I had declined. That night, just after midnight, I sent her a message. She replied before morning. The role was still available. The company had grown considerably. They were looking to fill the position within weeks. The company was based in Canada. I read her message twice. Then I opened my laptop. And I purchased 2 flights. The hardest part was not the decision itself. The hardest part was the 2 weeks that followed. I went through the motions of ordinary life. School runs. Work. Dinner. Conversation. I smiled when smiling was expected. Beneath the surface, I was building something new. A flat. Legal paperwork. A school for Lily. Financial arrangements. A support network. Every decision passed through a single question. Is this better for my daughter? Yes, I moved forward. No, I stopped. James, during those 2 weeks, was predictable. He assumed this would resolve the way everything else had. With my apology, my retreat, my return to the way things were. He sent messages. Can we talk? This has gone on long enough. Mum is very upset. That last one. Not once did anyone ask how I was. Only how his family felt about how I was. I stopped replying. I stopped explaining myself. When you stop providing words, people cannot distort them. The evening before our flight, James came home with food from a place I had always loved. He set it on the table. He sat across from me. Lily was already asleep. I think it's time to put this behind us, he said. I looked at him. I think so too. He exhaled. The tension left his shoulders. I knew we'd get there. I said nothing more. The next morning, while he was at work, Lily and I drove to the airport. I left a letter on the table. Nothing bitter. Nothing theatrical. Just the truth, written plainly. Why I was going, what had made it necessary. And what I hoped, for all of us, might eventually change. My phone began ringing while we were still in the terminal. I let it ring. Hours later, somewhere above the Atlantic. Lily asleep against my arm, I answered. Sarah. James sounded like someone who had just understood something. You actually did it. Yes. This is. What it is, I said, is the last time I shrink myself to fit a space that was never built for me. A long silence. For the first time in 7 years, he had no reply. I will not pretend the months that followed were simple. They were not. Building a life in a new country with a young child is genuinely hard. There were difficult weeks. Weeks where I questioned everything. But something shifted in Lily that I had not anticipated. She opened up. She laughed more. She asked more questions. She seemed, somehow, lighter. And gradually, So did I. The distance gave James something our arguments never could. Perspective. Space to see what he had been unwilling to see. He called one evening, months later, and spoke differently. Not an apology for a single incident. An acknowledgement of years. Of a pattern. Of what it had cost. His mother and sister came to it more slowly. But they came. Our relationship today is not what it was. It is better. Genuinely better. Not because forgiveness arrived overnight, but because for the first time, something real existed between us. An honest boundary. Mutual respect. A foundation. Looking back, I understand now that the most significant moment was not the flight, not the new city, the new start, the new life. It was the moment I accepted, quietly and without drama, that I was allowed to be treated well, that I did not need to earn it, or beg for it, or wait for someone to grant it. The evening James told me to apologize or leave. He believed he was demonstrating his authority. He had no idea he was showing me the door to my own life. And I walked through it.